This movie marks the birth of the Tom Cruise stunt, which is a stunt that no one else would do because no one else is Tom Cruise. Mission Impossible 2 is directed by John Woo, written by Robert Towne, and stars Tom Cruise, Dougray Scott, Thandie Newton, and Ving Rhames. And in Mission Impossible 2, Ethan Hunt accepts this mission to find and destroy a biological weapon which has now fallen into the hands of a rogue IMF agent. And this is the one that people hate, because admittedly it is the one that's most different from the other Mission Impossible movies as well as from the television series, and I'm gonna kind of defend it here because I don't think it's a good movie per se, but I don't think it's a bad movie at all. It's ultimately very over-stylized by John Woo, but I still think the action is fun, and the theme song here is like the best version of the Mission Impossible theme song I think we have. Now, first of all, before anything, I forgot to mention that I did like the cinematography in the first movie from Stephen H. Burwell because he used a lot of cool colors that I think really helped with the paranoia and the tension. But I also really like the cinematography here by Jeffrey L. Kimball, and the color palette is a lot warmer, which I think makes it feel a bit grittier. And there are lots of sweeping shots also that really give a sense of place. Like there's this one shot that starts like on one side of an island, and it just sweeps all the way around to the other side where you see Ethan Hunt like climbing up, and it was really cool. And I really just have to mention the theme song here again, because every Mission Impossible movie kind of feels like a reboot because of all the directors keep switching. And the theme song, just like the movies feeling like a reboot, the theme song keeps changing as well, and this one is my favorite version of it because it's a full-on rock instrumental, and that's like up my alley, and it gets you really, really pumped up. And according to Wikipedia, this movie was edited by 4 people: Stuart Baird, Tony Ciccone, Steven Kemper, and Christian Wagner, and I personally think they do keep things moving throughout the movie while retaining some of the suspense that the first movie had. And I do think that every Mission Impossible movie retains some, essence of that spy origin that this series came from. It's just that the first one is just pure suspense. And people complain about the character of Ethan Hunt in this movie, and I don't blame them because he really does come across as this James Bond type playboy. But my argument against their criticizing that is that, at least Ethan Hunt actually has character in this movie, because in the first one I actually found him to be kind of flat and generic, but here I'm glad he's a bit more invested in the mission because you can feel the stakes like become more personal for him. And speaking of which, Tom Cruise is given way more to do here dramatically, and this is really where we begin to see Tom Cruise becoming the actor stuntman we now know him as today. Going back to that knife stunt, like that is just insane, insanely dangerous, and it really shows how committed he is to, delivering a genuine experience. Thandie Newton was nominated for a Razzie for her performance in this movie, which I think is pretty unfair because her and Dougray Scott, they're not outstanding by any means, but they're pretty functional, they're not bad in this movie in my opinion. And John Woo, as a director, you have to realize he's an action director first and foremost. So what will really make or break this movie for you is the action. And I personally found his very specific brand of action of being over the top and outrageous, I actually found it pretty entertaining. But John Woo is also this movie's biggest flaw because he does end up just over-stylizing everything. There's just way too many drawn-out slow-mo shots that take forever to get over with. Some really weird music choices like choir in the background and stuff. And it really just kind of strays too far away from what the first movie was, which I think any sequel should be careful not to do. And there's also just way too many doves as well. And unfortunately, the plot here is just as convoluted as it was in the first movie in my opinion. I really don't understand why people think spy movies can't be straightforward. They just keep on piling complicated twists and whatnot, and they use the face masks way too many times in this movie so it gets confusing about who's who. But in the end, I'd still say that Mission Impossible 2 is an okay movie. I think it does get a lot of unfair hate. It definitely still has merit to it. And there are people out there who do like this movie, and don't feel bad for liking it because I completely get it. Alright, so those are my thoughts on Mission Impossible 2. Have you guys seen it? What do you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.